this section and add it in there.
All right.
Make Ian do some editing.
How dare you?
Nice. Ian, I'm gonna. Do you want to lead this one? I'm gonna check.
Uh, Not really. You
All
have
right,
the
fine,
Ohio
fine.
connection.
I'll do it. I'll do it. Fine. All right, so are you still in the dorms at OU?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Where are you at? What screen are you on?
I just finished up my dorm time. So last dorm I was in, James Hall, West Green.
Okay, okay. I was in Ryers for a little bit.
I was in Ryers my freshman year, Rowdy Ryers.
Then I got up there into Bromley. Lived in
Oh,
the
lucky.
green in Bromley. Anyway, let's start the interview. Are we recording now?
Yeah.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Iron Goalie. That's what I'm going to call him this whole time. I don't think he has a
Got
real name. We have a couple things to talk to you about, but I think the thing that is most pressing is the question that's on everybody's mind: are you actually a goalie made entirely of metal?
Unfortunately, not. You know, it's one of those names I came up with when I was 13 and I was trying to figure out my first email address. And it's just one of those things that I hung on to ever since. So,
I think you have one of the least embarrassing 13-year-old email addresses of anyone.
yeah, I mean, it could
I
be
want to
way.
congratulate you on that. It's really grown up with you.
Yeah.
You first came to all of our attention on the subreddit doing your transfer threads. Did you kind of set out to become the transfer thread guy, or is it something you fell into?
Not really. To be honest, I was just bored, and I knew at the time that there wasn't really like that was before MLS started to have their transfer center during the transfer periods, and so I pretty much just set up a Google alert for any transfer rumor, you know, any language. I would try and translate it, or use Google Translate. But it was about the laziest thing I could have done while still being productive.
It was super helpful to everybody else because then we didn't have to, weed through everybody else's post about their teams, rumors, and it really helped out. You've been interning with the Richmond Kickers.
Yes, love the team, love the city, love the people here. You know, it's definitely a place I could see myself working after I graduate.
How did you get um, how did you get into the job, and what do you do there?
So I started out. I'm actually from the part of Virginia that borders with West Virginia, um, and I won't say exactly where, so no one comes and hunts me down in my sleep. But um, so we,
Hold the phone. Are there people hunting you?
I don't know. I, I've made a lot of enemies.
Okay,
I
okay.
won't say words about that. Um, but yeah, it's my dad took me to a DC United game when I in 2005, 2006, and I fell in love with soccer. And then we started going to
You missed all
Richmond
the
games.
MLS Cups then.
Yeah, I came in right at the tail end of all the cool stuff, so I've had the interesting fan period of being a DC fan. No one can accuse me of being a bandwagoner at this point. Um, but we started going to Richmond games because they were closer, and I think first Richmond game I went to was junior year of high school, and it was another team that I really liked. And now that we're partnered with DC, it's that much better.
Now you've been in charge, you've mentioned on the sub, of sort of trying to create a supporters group, a fan atmosphere over in Richmond.
Um, yeah, it was a project that our general manager, I am was I didn't pay my membership fee yet this year. Member of the District Ultras for DC United, and um, basically using a lot of the tenets that the people involved with that um, pushed or promoted, or the things they wanted to see in a supporters group. Um, I tried to, you know, try to help make happen in Richmond. We had a few people who would sit over, we have section O, it's in the corner, it's right next to the corner flag, about 2 foot away. And we would have people that would sit there occasionally here and there. But what I tried to do was talk to RVA DCU, which is the DC Richmond fan group, AO Richmond, those type of groups, and see if we could get them all united around our hometown team. And I think we've had a good bit of success with it so far.
Did you find that once you kind of got the section started, people started kind of migrating to it, or is it still something where you kind of have to seek out, like what tactics? I know you just mentioned a few pulling out of the groups, but have you seen it kind of start to grow on its own since it started forming up?
Yeah, that's one thing that I think is really good about the group. It started, I worked for them last summer. I worked for the Kickers last summer as well, and it started probably halfway through my internship last year. We had some incentives to get people out to games, to get them, hooked on the games, and then they started really liking it. We had some of our stadium rules relaxed to be more friendly to supporters groups. And every game I'm seeing 1 or 2 new people pop up in the Red Army, and it just, it's been a thing that's been taken off, and I'm really happy to see it grow.
So a lot of you guys have been DC fans and have been DC fans for a while, and I am terrified of what happens when DC eventually plays my favorite lower league team in Carolina. What They went to a U.S. Open Cup shootout last year, DC and Richmond did. So what kind of internal strife happened there?
There wasn't really internal strife, I guess. The Red Army hadn't been a thought by that point. Well, it had, but it hadn't been. Our efforts hadn't happened to that point, and so we had a couple of people who really were rooting for Richmond, and that was kind of our signal that it's something we need to push. That there are people who would root for Richmond against DC. That we could carve our own little supporters group if we tried.
Who did you root for?
Oh, me? Okay. Well, so I rooted for a good game.
Okay.
Okay, sure you did.
I definitely rooted for the Kickers, but there was a soft spot in my heart for both teams because they are our partner club, and as much as it's great to see us do well, it's also great to see them do well. And I don't think it's a situation that a loser could have come out of. It's both teams played incredibly well. It was a great game, really fun to watch.
And it was fascinating because we had a similar. There was Orlando played Kansas City in the Open Cup too, and Kansas City didn't let Orlando use any of their Kansas City players. But I mean, Dykstra was in that shootout against DC.
And I'm an intern, so I don't want to go shooting my mouth off about stuff. But for me personally, as a fan, it was an incredibly great gesture by DC to let us use their players because we had more than just Dykstra in that game.
Right.
I think we had a couple other loanees, and it was a real good show all around.
So, in doing the transfer threads, were there any favorite terrible rumors? Anything that you were posting up? Any memorable?
Anything Kaká. There were a million Kaká rumors. There were a million Rafa Marquez is doing this, that, or the other thing.
Don't we still have a standing Kaká rumor that he had promised to go to Orlando City if they had a team?
Yeah, who knows?
Count that as a standing rumor.
I don't know. Apparently Robinho is being targeted. That news came out today. We'll see about that. Who knows?
Anything exciting for us?
Oh, for you guys? Oh, are you trying to get some insider information?
Not. Maybe.
Well, as you guys know, Crystal Palace is doing a tour of the U.S. They're playing the Crew, boo. They're playing the Union, and they're playing us. So we play them Monday, July 28th, and it's really exciting. If I'm correct, it's the first time a Premier League team has played in the state of Virginia, and it's something I am looking forward to working greatly.
They're also playing. Who's playing Minnesota? They're playing Minnesota too, aren't they?
Swansea's playing Minnesota.
Swansea's playing Minnesota. Okay, that makes sense.
So, do you have any goals for the upcoming? I know, last season you took the reins on getting the supporters group started. Do you have anything else in mind that you're really trying to get off the ground this time around?
Well, I've only been back in Richmond for a week today because finals ended, and then I took a couple weeks to myself, and then I moved down here. And so there's no summer goals set. I mean, I still like to keep an eye on the Red Army. Um, we played RVAFC. They're an NPSL team across town, and we had a great turnout by the Red Army. They took over RVAFC's beer garden, and were right behind the goal, heckling, chanting, flags, the whole deal. It was a really tremendous turnout and was a lot of fun for a lot of people.
Richmond's a cool little city. I mean, I drive through. I've driven through it a lot because I used to live in the Triangle area in North Carolina, and we had family in DC, which is how I became a DC fan partially. And driving through Richmond was always interesting. Their stadiums are they're unique. Like City Stadium is one of those like unique structures, and they also have this weird baseball stadium right next to the Greyhound station. That's
Yeah.
really cool.
So City Stadium, which we play in, was founded. I want to say it's 1929, but I'm not entirely sure that's right. And so it's got a very distinctive arch, for a field that used to be home to football and is now home to soccer. It's very unusual to have that arch that separates away from midfield. But I think it adds to the charm of the place. It's definitely a fun stadium. It's got my own blood, sweat, and tears in it. But it's a great place to come out and watch a game, I think.
So you also wanted to talk a little bit about Open Cup because you're going to be writing for that for was it the Cup.us or are you writing for?
Yeah, for the past, I guess it's been about a year and a couple months. I've written for Josh Hakala over at the Cup.us, and the Open Cup. I think it's the best kept secret in American sports. It's one of the what is it? It's the only older tournament in the U.S. is a sailing competition, I
Yeah, I
think.
think that's right.
And it's really fascinating. Me and my friend every year have a habit of following our teams in the Open Cup. In 2012, our senior year, we went down to the Richmond DC game, which DC won in extra time, and then we went up to the DC Union game, and DC lost, so that was the end of our run. Last year, I was at the Richmond DC game, obviously, and then got to write for the Cup to follow DC, in the Union Revolution games, and then they went on the road, so I couldn't go to any more of their games. But yeah,
So,
I
as someone who might follow the Open Cup a little closer than others, are there any lower leagues teams that you can see making it to the late rounds this year, or maybe some sleeper favorites?
I'm gonna. I think the Cosmos really need to be on worry for the Brooklyn Italians.
Interesting.
I know. I would say the three teams that could cause some ruckus that are really lower league teams are Chattanooga, New York Greek American Atlas, which we're playing. I mean, we have to take them seriously. Uh, and then Brooklyn Italians and are Icon FC still in it? I believe they are.
I'm not sure. But yeah,
I
yeah, so you're talking really lower league, like fourth division or lower, like MPSL teams.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, there's always going to be a USL Pro team here or there, and they're going to do well. We're never sure who that is. You know, some teams get hot in the Open Cup, some teams don't. But I think there
I
could
know
be,
we know
if,
about that.
yeah,
Yes, Crew's been taken out, I believe, 2 years running by some of the lower league teams also. So we're
I'm
all on
pretty
board there.
pretty sure 2011 the Kickers went up to Columbus and beat the Crew on their way to a semifinal game against the Chicago Fire.
That's correct. And the Dutch Lions both beat us and ended Eddie Gavin's career last year, so that was an especially
Great.
sore one as well.
Yeah.
That
Well,
was rough.
fun fact: Kickers were the first team that Kansas City played in their new stadium, and the first team to score in Kansas City's new stadium. Thank you, David Bulow.
That's indeed fascinating. Um, yeah, I've loved the Open Cup last couple of years. Living in the Triangle, we've gotten two consecutive LA Galaxy home games, and they've both been fantastic, and we won both of them, and it was awesome. The first one especially because we were down 1-0 going to the second half, and got an equalizer late and a winner late, and it was amazing, and just, the Carolina fans loved it. It's great to showcase the lower leagues. I feel like the Open Cup is.
And I
Yeah.
know that we covered this a little bit in the other portions of this episode of the podcast, but I think it's going to be really interesting to see which MLS talent will be playing for the which of those loanees will be playing for the lower division sides also, because I think that could bring a lot to the table that we haven't seen in past competition.
Yeah. I really wish last year some of the other teams had been as open about loanees as DC had been with us. This year, we definitely know we have Joe Willis because he started the last game we played against RVAFC in the Open Cup, so he's cap tied to us. I wish more teams would have that initiative because it really is a good chance for some of the younger MLS players to get experience,
Hmm.
and it's a fantastic tournament for that.
And like I said earlier, like I said yesterday, DC let their players play, and they went on to win the Open Cup, and Kansas City didn't let their players play, and they got knocked out by Orlando. So, you know, maybe
Yeah,
it's a karma thing.
yeah, yeah. We'll go with that. And you've seen some players' careers that have really benefited from the Open Cup. Like last year, Danny Zatella, throwing out a name from the past, was playing for Icon FC, and after the Open Cup, he moved to the New York Cosmos,
Yep.
and he's a guy who I think he had a good Open Cup showing and benefited because of that. So it's good to see some of the guys who want a second run or some of the youngsters that need play time. This is a fantastic tournament.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it surprises me a little bit. We've had this guy for a couple of years. Carolina has Ty Shipolani, who basically
Oh,
single-handedly killed the Galaxy in 2012, and he hasn't been picked up yet by an MLS team for like a tryout. It's weird, but
I'm fairly sure he used to play for DC and
he
then went
did.
down. And
Yeah,
then, yeah,
but that was before the Galaxy game.
yeah.
So
But he's a guy that could serve, that this tournament could serve well. I mean, I remember him being, pretty good. Not setting the world on fire, but a good player. I haven't seen him since, but, maybe this is a chance he gets back in it.
yeah. So speaking of our DC, we just kicked Houston's ass. We're
Yeah.
now second in the East. We'll take first in the East at the weekend in New England, right? That's a given.
Oh, whoa. New England is the most underrated, overrated team I think we've had this this season. No one's talking about them. They've got a fantastic offense. I'm a little worried because we play them if we beat Greek American Atlas in the Open Cup, and if they're scoring 5 goals a game, I'm a
Y'all
little
don't play
worried.
DC again? I thought y'all played DC again.
No, DC will travel to Rochester or play Reading United at home, depending on.
Oh, okay.
I, for some reason, I memorize way too much of the Open Cup fixtures.
All I know is that Carolina's playing Carolina, and then the winner's gonna play Carolina, and then yeah.
The
Um,
Carolina Cup.
but yeah, no, New England is fantastic. If I didn't,
I think New England got a lot of buzz at the beginning of the year too, and then they didn't do so hot right out the gate. I think that's where they kind of
well, because
why we're not talking about them as much yet.
they didn't know how to replace Juan Agudelo, and now they found Patty Mullins, who I'm still upset that we didn't draft Patty Mullins. I don't understand why he dropped to 11th in the draft. It doesn't make any sense to me. Um,
I can kind of see that because a lot of teams like DC United didn't need a poacher. They needed a guy who could be more of a complete forward. And I think we got that with Rolf and Espindola. But I think Birnbaum, in the long term, I'll go out on a limb. I think Birnbaum's going to be a better draft choice when we look back in 10 years than Mullins
well,
is.
but he hasn't been getting much play at Richmond, though, right?
Not really, not yet. Um, I don't know. It's like defenders and goalkeepers. They get better with age.
Yeah,
So I
that's
think
fair.
Birnbaum's going to be one of those guys.
So at what point are we gonna? At what point is Ben Olsen finally gonna realize that Christian is awful at left back?
Okay, I was actually having this discussion because we watch all our games at Gus's Bar and Grill, and we had a group of RVA DCU guys tonight, and
Hmm.
I was talking. I'm like, man, Christian is the worst defensive left back I think I've ever seen, but the best offensive left back
He's
I
like a
think
poor
I've ever
man's
seen.
DeAndre Yedlin, to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
it's so frustrating because you're like, oh my god, how could you miss that tackle? That guy just skinned you, and then
Yeah.
runs down the field and puts a picture perfect cross in right on somebody's head.
I think he should be tried at left wing. I mean, I know Chris Rolfe plays there when Eddie Johnson is in, but maybe as a substitute or maybe it'd be something to try. I feel like
Yeah,
because
but then who do you put at left back?
I don't know anyone else, literally anyone else. I don't care. Put Corp there when Sean Franklin comes back, or bring up Taylor Kemp. I don't know how he's doing, but we've got people. We
He's
can do
been getting
this.
a few minutes.
He's what?
He's been getting a few minutes.
I like Coach Ian's philosophy of I don't care, just fix it.
Yeah, put whoever you want back there, and they're going to be better than this guy who used to play in La Liga.
Yeah,
I
what
don't
is?
understand that. How did this guy play in La Liga? Like, I guess
Well,
it's because it's such an offensive focused league.
I guess so. I mean, and if you think about La Liga, before this year, it was basically Real Madrid and Barcelona and everybody else, with a couple of people doing okay in Champions League, like Malaga or whatever. Um, and he played on one of those teams that was in La Liga because he helped them get promoted from La Second Liga. I don't know what they call it in Spain.
I think that's it. I think you got it.
It's
And
like the Galaxy 2, it's Los Dos. We'll just
yeah,
go with that.
that is pretty great. Um, so yeah, he was on one of those bottom teams that, if they came and played an MLS team, they might not win, like Getafe and well, he came from Almeria, so I think they're getting relegated. I don't know. I don't care. I don't give a
I
fuck. Yeah.
definitely see his promise, and I don't know. I'm not worried about it. It is frustrating to see him get skinned, but I'm not to the point where I'm like, oh, we gotta yank him. I'm just, yeah, I'm not that worried about it yet.
You know what's interesting is I think there was a lot of concern because we're starting Boswell and Park as our center backs. I remember there being a lot of preseason concern, like, yeah, they're solid MLS center backs, but they're also really slow, and that
Yeah,
hasn't been a problem at all.
No, I mean you can watch the Philly game. That's where it pays off. I mean they were quick to the ball. They used veteran defense and commandeered the defense. And I mean that, while terrifying as a DC fan to watch that game, it was a pretty good defensive performance.
Right. Yeah, and every game's been pretty much a pretty good defensive performance, and that's what we had. That's what we had in 2012 when we had McDonald and Yakovich next to each other, and then both those guys came falling back to earth and regressed to the mean after a great 2012, and then we sucked.
Yeah, I'm a little sad that we let Ethan White go.
Me too. I thought he did great. Well,
But
not great, but I thought he had promise anyway.
yeah, I'm sad we let Ethan White go, but I'm not sad that we got Park out of it.
I am sad that we. So Philly made that trade so they could get Maurice Adu.
Yeah.
So they got Ethan White and Maurice Adu for Jeff Park,
Yeah, we
which
shouldn't have given up anybody.
yeah, no, we shouldn't have. And Jeff Park for Mo Adu straight up, I guess that's fine. But Chicago, or no, not Chicago, LA wants the number one allocation spot last year to get Robbie Rogers, and Chicago gets Mike McGee out of it. So,
Yeah, it's just trading a known quantity for an unknown quantity.
yeah.
I'm not entirely sure that Phillies made back their return on getting Maurice Adu.
I mean, he's one of those guys who's going to take a while, maybe. If they don't have any strikers, and they don't really have any defense, apparently, even though they have Austin Berry and Ethan White and other guys who play instead of those guys. So,
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on in Philly. They should be better. They're not.
Try and figure that one out. Well, I'll pose the question. Do you think Hackworth should be fired?
Yeah, totally. They have one win in 10 games, and after the Berry trade, and after trading for the number one pick overall, and after getting Adu, they should have more than one win in 10 games.
Do you give him till the end of the season, or do you think it's worth firing mid-season?
I think it's worth firing mid-season because Philly needs to go to the playoffs because that fan base is not happy.
I say you give him until he doesn't until it's statistically impossible for them to make the playoffs, and then you always hold out hope that there can be a late run or they start finding their mojo, but you don't want to fire him too early.
I think as a rule, since it's a Philly fan base, they should wait till the third incident of physical violence that this has caused, and like a 3 strikes rule.
But here's the thing, though, is that a lot of times a coach firing mid-season can be kind of a kick in the pants, right?
But sometimes in the pants hurt a lot, and they don't help you.
I mean,
Depends on what part of the pants you're kicking.
I mean, this is terribly anecdotal, but my UNCG basketball a couple years ago benefited a lot from a mid-season firing, and ended up going all the way to the SoCon semis, where they had never been for like 10 years. And then they reverted back to sucking. But, if Philly wants like a cheap shot at the playoffs, that's the way to do it, is you fire Hackworth, get someone, I don't care who, get...
Kurt Anolfo.
Don't get him. Don't do that.
Isn't he assistant coaching at LA?
He is.
Yeah.
He is. He might actually be the coach of Los Dos, but I don't think so.
God.
But your argument is that they should get. I don't know. I don't buy the argument that what they should be shooting for is a cheap shot at the playoffs. When you get a new coach, you'll oftentimes get that new coach bump. The players will be excited for a match or two. But I don't think it's something that's going to sustain you through the season, especially if you're trying to switch systems mid-season.
Well, just don't switch systems. Let the players figure it out. Do what RSL's doing this year, and just Jeff Cassar stepping back and letting RSL do their thing, and then the ramifications can come later when RSL sucks next year.
So why fire the coach then? Why not just let him keep coaching if they're not going to listen? Just tell them not to listen, and then we won't have to hire somebody new.
Because then they won't have somebody that they have to actively not listen to. they can just passively not listen to a new guy. I don't know.
You know, my thought on the whole situation is you have to honor Hackworth's contract anyway. So what's the harm in giving him that extra couple of games here and there? You know, I don't think Philly's at a point where even if you had a new coach, you have all the pieces you need to make the playoffs.
I think they do. They've got Noguera and Edu in midfield, who are pretty great. They've got a hypothetically solid back line. They've
They've
got.
got McInerney up front. Oh wait, I'm so sorry.
Okay, let's. Have you guys covered the McInerney Wenger?
We've
trade? Not as much as we should have.
talked a little bit about it. Not a lot.
It's that absolutely puzzles me. I don't understand why you make that trade. I don't understand what it accomplishes to get Wenger. I haven't seen anything out of Wenger that I've been terribly impressed with. He seems like a guy who needs to spend a couple years in USL Pro.
I wouldn't go. I don't know if I would go that far. I think he does bring something to the table. I'm not sure that he's, I don't think he brings as much as McInerney did, but I think he's ready to be on the bench and even a starter if that's what the situation calls for at the MLS level. That having been said, he doesn't have what McInerney has.
No, Montreal definitely won that trade.
Agreed. I think we're all in agreement there. Unless Ian, are you ready to fight us on this one?
He's got his mic
Oh,
on.
he's muted.
Sorry, folks at home.
Oh, crap. Okay. I actually missed that entire thing.
Okay.
What did you guys agree to?
We agreed that Montreal clearly got the better end of that deal. And
Yeah, I mean, obviously. So here's the thing.
If anybody would argue, it might be Ian.
No, I'm not gonna argue that. But what I am gonna say is that it's funny that Philly can fleece DC in trade after trade, and then they fleeced Chivas to get that number 2 pick overall in the first place last year, and then they fleeced Chicago in the Austin Berry trade, and I mean those
fleeced around a lot here.
Yeah, well, there's a point here in that they can take advantage of the shittiest organizations in MLS. But then, like, the next tier of shitty, which is Montreal, they get fucked by them. So, whatever. Philadelphia.
Yeah, again, that move absolutely puzzles me, especially when Joey Saputo says things like, this team, you're going to see better on the field next year. It's like, well, then, why are you trying to do what you're trying to do? Like, I don't know. That trade mystifies me on both ends, I guess. But
we're all in the same puzzle.
Yeah. Stupid.
Just muttering to myself over here. Let's go ahead and start to wrap it up. We usually wrap up the end of the show with some bold predictions, but since you won't be with us at the end of the show, do you have any bold predictions for the season? And they've got to be bold, all right?
Okay.
For example, DC's going to win MLS Cup.
That's bold.
It's not my bold prediction, but it's
a bold prediction.
All right. Well, I'm going to go some lower league bold predictions.
That's what we're looking for.
Since, that's what I'm currently wrapped up in right now. So, July 28th, I'm saying the Kickers come out and beat Crystal Palace 2-1.
That is a very bold prediction.
Yep, I'm going to immediately regret it. I'm sure someone in the office is going to challenge me to a bet tomorrow about that, but, I'm going to stick by it.
Well, don't tell them you're going to stick by it, or else they'll increase the odds of that bet exponentially.
I know exactly. I know exactly the guy who sits next to me. He's going to call me on it tomorrow, and then I'm probably going to have to buy him a beer.
It is all over with.
Yep.
All right. So your things to plug. You've got your writing on the cup.us for the Open Cup, right?
Oh, yeah. People go to the cup.us. If you're a regular to the Reddit MLS page, you know the cup. Josh does great work. Works his
Yes.
ass off. Dude sends me emails at like 3:30 in the morning trying to get me to write something. He's some guy who's really dedicated to this tournament, and I'm glad to finally see the site taking off the way he wants it to. And, of course, got to plug the Richmond Kickers. We're playing Saturday against Charlotte at home. Watch us on YouTube. And July 28th, we're playing Crystal Palace. And we're going to
Will that one be up on YouTube also?
Sorry?
Will that one be up on YouTube also?
That is going to be determined by people that are not me.
All right.
Why not?
I
Why
haven't
don't you get to
determined
determine that?
about it, but I'm not going to disclose that inkling. Just keep your eyes and ears open. It gives you an excuse to go to our webpage, bump our traffic. So
Get
Do you
to
gotta-
that webpage.
Do you got a Twitter we can throw
Oh.
out there?
yeah, at RPK2 at OU, and the second at is spelled phonetically because I like having the most confusing Twitter handle I can imagine.
Gotcha.
Side note to everyone out there, a very important side note, go Bobcats.
Yes, Ohio Bobcats.
Bobcats.
Oh, let me add one bold prediction.
All right, let's hear it. I'm ready.
Time. Saul Phillips, the new Ohio University men's basketball coach. We're going to win the MAC this year. Akron, suck it. Thank you.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh wait, does this mean I get to rub in that Sweet 16 game from a couple years ago at you?
You mean the one where the school you didn't go to beat my school in overtime?
Yeah, the one where we took you deep into overtime.
Hey, we
That
didn't
one?
have
That's the
we
one you
didn't have
said, Ruben?
we didn't
No,
have
it's not
Kendall
like we
Marshall.
it's not like we beat Michigan and USF on our way there or anything.
Yeah. Well, whatever. Just
Go
as long
ahead.
as it's Tar Heels
Keep
win.
rubbing it in. We're loving it over here.
UNC Greensboro, is that a bold prediction if I predict them to not suck next year?
Yes.
Yeah,
We're gonna be so awful.
You heard
lost-
it here first. UNC
we lost-
Greensboro
We
is
lost all of our. We weren't very good in the first place, and we lost all of our good players because they don't want to play at UNCG anymore.
Oh, see what you're supposed to do, and I don't know if you guys have gotten the memo yet. You're supposed to pick up new players when the other ones graduate.
Yeah, it's kind of called recruiting. It's like a yearly process where you're like, hey, we'll give you a Bugatti if you come to our college.
It's that easy.
Cars.
You know how many Bugattis are driving around Athens, Ohio?
You think Wes Miller, who graduated under the tutelage of Mr. Roy Williams, would understand how this works, but
Under the tutelage. Yeah.
Ooh,
I see
getting
you trying to
fancy
make
over
the
there.
school sound fancy.
Even me. You must have went to college or something. College boy. All right. Let's just, we'll stop making fun of you in there.
No.
Thank you very much for joining us.
All right, I had a great time.
Are we looking forward to some more transfer thread in the summer, too?
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Ladies and
All right.
gentlemen.
I kind of have work to do for the Kickers, but
I'm not buying it.
yeah, well, you're right.
There. All right. Thank you very much. Hopefully we can have you back.
All right.
Cool. And then we'll end the thing there.